I think the most religious trauma I actually got when I moved to the United States, when I came out as gay on social media. I get so many hate messages from my old
Mm,
church, like, we don't want to see you anymore. We will pray for you. You like
mm.
you're in the darkness, like just like really, really nasty, unloving things. Like, if you're ever back, don't bother coming back. And just a lot of hate, a lot of
Oh,
bigotry.
wow. Hello, friend. Welcome back to the Awakened Entrepreneur Show. I am Juan Galan, your host, and I am back with another brand new guest to the show. This time, I am going to be chatting with Eugene. We connected over Instagram a couple of months ago, and I actually noticed him because he was commenting on a lot of my posts, most specifically when it came to being gay and loving God, religion, spirituality. So obviously there was some sort of bonding there, and we started talking, and I was like, you know what? I'd love to have you on the show. He is a former psychologist and engineer turned coach, and he works with coaches, consultants, and he helps them basically learn how to sell in a way they love or that they feel good. So we're going to be talking about this. We're going to be talking about religion, spirituality. Also, he's an immigrant from Russia and migrated to the US 11 years ago. So we're going to be talking about all of that. So you're going to love this episode. So make sure to stay till the end. Hi, Eugene. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm great. I'm excited about this chat. This episode is for anyone who's ever felt like they had to choose between being who they are and being loved by God. Misfits, I like to call them. So, yeah, I want to start by going back to the beginning. Tell us a little bit more about why you migrated from Russia to America. What was it like back then? And then we'll talk about the business side.
Yeah. Well, I actually had the idea that I don't belong in Russia when I was in school. So, a little bit of a background about Russia and about me. Russia is predominantly Russian Orthodox country. And when it comes to
Mm,
religion, you gotta be in a more traditional religious groups such as Russian Orthodox, Catholic, maybe Lutheran, or
mm,
Muslim or Buddhist, right? If you are
okay.
in like more smaller religious denominations such as Baptist or Pentecostal, then you are considered that you are in the cult, and there's like significant religious persecution, right,
Oh,
in Russia. And it's not just like in the US, for example. A lot of evangelicals would like to say that they're persecuted by the media, by the society, but it's not quite like that in Russia. In Russia, you actually, yeah, the job
mm,
opportunities can be denied. And of course, being gay in Russia, like, not safe. Like, to be open was
yeah.
not safe. This is like was very unique combination, right? Like, my faith, which is like was and which is really strong and is really big part of my life, and being gay. So that's why I knew that I needed to move. So when I finished school and I was going through my advanced degrees, I decided, like, okay, now it's the time I need to do something. And I started working towards my immigration. And when I say started working, learning the language, learning the culture, manifesting actively. So embodying it, right? Not just like
Mm,
I visualize myself walking in New York or Chicago or Seattle and then boom, it happened. No, it was actually a lot of hard work and getting
right.
to know people from the US prior to that. And I actually wanted to move to Australia at
Oh,
first, right? Like, that was my goal. I wanted to move to Australia, but I surrendered my desire to God, and I said, you know what? I want to move to a English speaking country, whether it is Canada, whether it is New Zealand, Australia, US, England, Malta. Why not Malta? So, and then God opened the way to the US, and I moved to the US 11 years ago, 11, 12 years ago. I don't like it was in 2013. Oh, and the rest is history. I'm here.
wow, that's amazing. I love your story of manifesting your outcome by embodying that version of you already, taking aligned action, which is something that I love. I love everything that has to do with manifestation. And I know a lot of people say manifestation is demonic, but it's actually our brains in action. And I do have another episode on this that I will link in the show notes. So you migrated to the US and you already had a degree in psychology and engineering, or did you have to start over from scratch when you moved there?
So I had my degree in clinical psychology with a specialization in people with disabilities and special needs. I am fluent in Russian and American Sign Languages. So, and
Okay.
one of my core study was talk therapy in sign language. So that's my
Okay.
background. In the US, it was quite challenging. So a lot of people would tell me that like forget about your degree. It doesn't matter in the US. Like your degree and
Mm,
experience really doesn't matter. You have to like serve tables, wash
yeah.
dishes, like do unqualified job or like drive truck. But when I moved, obviously like things like getting a license and getting into license field is a little bit more complicated than that. The licensing in the US is extremely complicated, even if you graduated
Mm,
from US university, but that degree somehow does not recognize by the board, you may not be licensed as a therapist, right? And that
uh,
is a common challenge. But I was able to rebuild my career in youth counseling, case management, counseling and therapy work that where I would work under a licensed professional, under a licensed clinician, but I would provide clinical services. And then I pivoted to technology, to tech, and I started developing mobile apps because unfortunately behavioral health is not as funded, or at least at
mm,
that moment, my vision was so narrow. I could not see my path forward and I could not connect with people with the right abundance mindset around money. So when I talk to a therapist, I'm like, okay, but if let's say I drop everything, go back to school, become licensed, either therapist, counselor, or like go all the way to PhD program, become clinical psychologist by the US standards. What is the pay? How much money would I make? And that would make a lot of people upset. Like, oh, like we're not here for the money. I'm like, well, I'm here for the money. Like I like helping people, but I like getting paid once in a while.
of
Like I have
course.
like rent. So I switched to technology. I switched to tech because it was a lot of hard work. I did not have degree in software engineering or computer science, but I was able to teach myself through boot camp, through self education. I started developing apps for iPhones and iPads, and it's quite a lucrative profession. And then when I got divorced, then my second or third, I don't know, like what awakening it was, something awakened in me, and like I was like I went to school for a reason. I did not go to school to just mentor at work under the table other software engineers. I would like to bring it more to life.
Mm,
And back in the day, what was in my heart was being a guide for people, being a mentor, being a coach. And then everything started waking up. And actually, before I switched to technology, before I switched to tech, I had a strong desire to actually pursue coaching path. But again, when you don't have people who show you this abundant mindset, then it's easy
yeah.
to chase the money versus, like, yes, with coaching, it's a little bit like it's not an easy money. It's not like just like you go on Instagram or on LinkedIn and you make a bunch of money. It's work. Right. In
It's
tech is
work.
a little bit faster money. So, and then, yeah, like everything was activated. I started remembering I actually got my first corporate client back in Russia when I was in college, and it was actually from a date. So we went on a date,
Oh,
and
wow.
the guy said, like you're a clinical psychologist. Like, oh my gosh, my company literally is about to go out of business because nobody gets a loan help, and I do not have time to look for another person who can fix it, and you sound like a person who can fix it. So forget about the date. I'm hiring you as a psychologist, as a corporate coach, so you can coach us, so we can actually run business together. So that's
That's
that's the
amazing.
background.
So that was your first client in corporate coaching. You mentioned that one of the catalysts was your divorce, right? And I've also experienced this with a breakup that I went through, which was my first spiritual awakening. And I love that you mentioned that it was like your second or third. For me, it was the first. And I'm literally just going through the third spiritual awakenings. Then I know we could totally talk about spiritual awakenings for hours. But tell me a little bit more about that moment. What was the thing that did you feel, or what were the signs that were telling you that you were having an awakening through going through this breakup?
Yeah, so it was incredibly challenging experience because my identity was tied into I'm a breadwinner. Because like my
Mm,
husband and I, we when we got together, we nobody came from money, so we both making about the same the same income. At some point, when we moved to Florida, we met in Chicago. We moved to Florida. It was my initiative, and I had the hardest time finding a job there. Like Florida culture versus Chicago culture, like totally different. And
okay.
he actually had to support us for a while. And then, like when I got into tech, I start making like really solid money. Like a lot of entrepreneurs like actually would dream of that like income, right? That was really tied into it. But I was in a new environment. I was in a new reality when it's just me. And like
Mm,
I never was that kind of person. Oh, I need to take a break from dating. I need to like be alone. But it was a different situation. It was like, okay, this is just me. I can do whatever I like. And I did not want to leave tech. It's not like I was burnt out by corporate culture. It was more so like, but I'm a clinical psychologist. Yeah, probably going back to school for 5, 6 years doesn't make sense, but I
mm,
can utilize my knowledge, what I already have, and start doing coaching. Back then I was thinking about life coaching, but then
mm.
I came started consuming a lot of content from other coaches. I actually went through several like lightweight certifications in coaching. That was interesting experience, especially with a person with a degree. But it was interesting. It was positive. But then I started working with business coaches, and then it kind of started getting momentum, and it was shaping and forming in different offers, and we can talk about that, of course, like down the line of this podcast. But this is how it started. It was the initial fire, right? Like the initial
Mm,
idea was, okay, I have this gift to guide people, to literally do like help people build. Because even my husband, he would say, hey, you should do it for the money, because when people come to you for career advice, for relationship advice, for business advice, and they implement what you tell them, it is quite incredible. I've never seen anything like that. You literally can heal and build and sustain people in the most incredible way. This should not go to waste. So the seed was already
mm,
there. Like, okay, yeah, like whenever my friends or my colleagues come to me with whatever idea they had, like I was able to like guide them through the process, and they got incredible results. So that was the awakening. It started with like kind of refreshing like the techniques that I already know as a clinical psychologist, consuming, learning more about the business as business and pricing. Because at first I like, okay, I don't know what to charge
mm.
for it, right? And then it just started forming, like morphing and forming into like the business that I have right now.
Right, right. And you mentioned before that your first coaching client was a corporate client. How did you go from that to actually finding people that needed your support in building businesses? Because you also said that you thought about doing life coaching, and at the end of the day, I feel like it's all part of a greater whole, right? Because when you do business coaching, because I also do business coaching, you also do like mindset coaching, and then you'll go into things about their life that obviously everything in your life affects your business, and everything in your business affects your life. So how did you go from that first corporate client to finding people that wanted to work with you?
So my first corporate client I was absolutely unaware that it could be a business, right? It's just like a dude. It was my first year in college, maybe a second. I don't remember. And he just invited me, and he offered me a solid money at a time. Cause like when people don't I mean, I was doing like counseling under supervision of my profession professors, but it was, like that was nothing what he would pay me, right? But then after that, I actually had to start learning the whole another different skill set because coaching and marketing, coaching and running a business, coaching and
Mm,
managing your finances. These are three different like jobs in your business.
totally.
So I started learning about marketing, social media, and my main platform is still LinkedIn, and this is kind of where I started getting clients. I purchased a coaching program about LinkedIn and why was that? Because when I was going live talking about my services, people would book calls with me, like just like that. It was very easy. Instagram was not like that. Twitter was not like that. YouTube was contributing to it, but wasn't quite like that. But then I start working with coaches like who would help me with my messaging, with my positioning, with like really articulating the value of the offer that I provide, and that really triggered more clients and more clients from LinkedIn because it was and it is my main platform. But when you orchestrate your messaging and your positioning in the right way, then like it's amazing how it works. And right now, like we are all in a trust recession and there are different moving parts in the industry,
Mm.
but the core fundamentals are the same. And this is how I started landing new clients. And I wish I had contacts with that business owner because I'm curious how he's doing right now because he could possibly use like virtual coaching for his team as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it's so interesting that your main platform has been LinkedIn. For me, it's been Instagram, but I have been putting more time and energy into LinkedIn in the past, let's say 30 days. And I've seen great results, not only in terms of growth and engagement, but also I've already got my first sales call booked for next week for a completely different program than the one that I offer on Instagram. On Instagram, I work mostly with entrepreneurs, and on LinkedIn, I'm positioning myself more to work with corporate clients. And I have my first sales call next week in less than 30 days. So LinkedIn works
Nice.
and it's fun. It's also fun to start a new platform and, showcase another part of you. But anyways, let's talk about your spirituality because, this is a spirituality podcast with business, of course. But you and I have talked about this before, and it's one of the things that really like got us together and bonded us, which is growing up with religion and being gay. So I'd love for you to speak a little bit more about that experience. What was your relationship with God when you were growing up?
Yeah, it's such a good question because when I was growing up, I was a very spiritual child. So my family is not religious. I mean,
Okay.
we would go to church. They're Russian Orthodox, right? But they're not super religious. Like God is there, like God is
Mm.
exists, right? We believe in God, and they would follow certain like rituals or traditions in Russian Orthodox Church. But I was always like felt that something was connecting with me. So for a short period of time, I delved into magic. And when I say magic, like like the books, the spells and summoning the spirit,
Mm.
my mom like thought it was just a play. It was like what
Like a
12,
face.
yeah, like a phase. But then my mom looked at what I was doing and she said, like, Eugene, it doesn't look like a game. I'm like, Mom, it is not a game. I'm about to summon a starter. Like, and it's a powerful spirit. I'm like, you're about to summon who? Like a starter. Like, not in my house. So like, no, in your house. Like I already said the spells. But then I was facing like the dark side of it, right? Because those spirits, they started like I start feeling the control of those spirits over my free
Wow.
will. And I decided to stop. I'm like, no, I'm not connecting with the right entities. So I stopped. But then I went on vacation to my relatives. It was almost in the middle of nowhere in Russia, a little town, little village. They actually introduced me, like they mentioned that they have a Baptist church. And my experience with church, whenever I would go to like Orthodox church, I would feel the connection with God. I did
Mm,
not need a priest or or something to connect with God. I felt the divine download like that.
yeah.
And when they mentioned that, I like, well, like they kind of preach that you can connect with God, like just like that. You can have personal relationship with God. I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds my kind of people. So show me, like, let's go together. I would like to check it out. They were not Baptist. They were Russian Orthodox and they were more religious than my family. So we went there and I had like my first spiritual awakening when the pastor asked like would you like to accept Jesus Christ as your personal like Lord and Savior. I felt something. I felt something
Mm,
and I it was almost visual, like there was a window behind the pastor, and like when I kneeled, I felt like a light, right, an angel coming down, and I think, and it's like it's my personal experience. Like I don't think
of
anybody
course.
could see the angel or the spirit, but like it was something that changed me forever. So when I'm back
Yeah.
home, I said like, "Hey, like I would like to go to a Baptist church." And it was a shocker for my mom. It was a shocker for my family. Like, wait a minute, like it's a cult again. Background about Russia, it's a cult. If you're not Catholic, Russian Orthodox, Muslim, or Buddhist, like you are part of the cult. So, and I got depressed because they said and they thought it was a phase. They thought it was just like something I had a strong impression of. But then like it would not go away. My mom said, "Okay, I will go with you. I want to make sure that you are safe. I want to make sure that it's not indeed a cult." So we attended the service. And what my mom, she's a former, like she's a veteran, she's a military officer. So the higher education, the higher moral ethics are core values of my mom. And when she met those people, like, yeah, like all of them are very decent, very polite. They have manners. A lot of them have higher education. You know what? Like, if it is your religion, you can go. So that was my religious start, right? I always had that
Mhm,
personal relationship with God. But then speaking about sexuality, at the time I was 14, 13, 14. So right about when I was 20 and growing up in church, like everything was good and fun. And I had ministry. I was sign language interpreter quite at the big level, at the national level. I would be known interpreter in my congregation. Then this is something that I brought into my early career. But then around 20, I got internet. So, and it's kind of embarrassing to
mm,
admit that like the first time I went online on the internet when I was 20 years old, then it kind of opened up the gates, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, there are gay people and there are gay guys. And I never understood my pastor's concern or other youth leaders' concern. Like, Eugene, why are you hanging out with the girls? Why are you hanging out with sisters? This is dangerous game. I like one dangerous game. I don't see them like that. We are friends. Like we're
mm,
having a good time.
yeah.
Like I understand them. Like they're my best friends. Like I don't want to marry none of them, and we're
Yeah.
not doing anything sexual. But then it kind of clicked. Like that's why I do want to do anything sexual. In fact, I felt desires towards other guys. I could not put words into it. And then it became really complicated. And then I started going to college and I went to therapy. And I thought I was perfectly fine. Like I would go to church on Sunday and I would date guys and go on dates any other day. And nobody like my dates, they wouldn't know that I was religious, but my church didn't have to know that I would date
Yeah, of
guys
course.
because I kind of knew like that was not good. But my therapist brought up really important point. She said like, Eugene, you are splitting your personality right now willingly, and you do not have boundaries between what is permissible and what is not. Everything is fine. In your practice as a therapist, you might cross a very dangerous line. You might have either unethical practice or inappropriate sexual relation with your client. and you will justify it. It's just fine. Nobody has to know, because this
Oh,
is exactly
wow.
what you're doing with your faith and with your church. What I need you to do, go to your pastor, and you should confess. And I did, and I was not excommunicated. It was interesting. No, like, it was interesting. It was a lot of religious drama, but it was interesting. My pastor, he was from a rural of Russia, so
Okay.
gay, like, he probably was the first time he heard the word gay, and he
Oh,
said, like,
wow.
have you thought about marrying somebody? There are so many sisters that they're so good, and you're about that age when, like, I mean, 20 something, of course you should get married and have 5 kids. Why not? I said, like, no, 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 like, you do not understand whose life you want to ruin right now. Look at those sisters. They're all beautiful, smart. They want to have loving husband who wants them and who will be loyal to them. I am not the one whose life you want to ruin. And he said, you know what? You're right. So he
Oh,
summoned
wow.
another pastor who was more experienced. And he said, like, okay, Eugene, what do you want? Do you want to leave church or not? Like, homosexuality, it's something that may or may not go away. I fasted, I prayed, I did all the right things. Like, and I took it really, really seriously. I said, okay, God, clearly this is not something that is okay. So help me. Like, and it did not happen. And I reported back. I said, like, hey, I prayed, I fasted, and going nowhere. And he said, like, okay, this is something that may not go away ever. Do you want to leave church? I'm like, but I'm gay. Like, this is not what I'm asking. Do you want to leave church? I'm like, no, I don't want to leave church. I like my ministry. I would like to be a, like, interpreter and help church and build community. This is something that I like. And he said, like, well, you either closer to Christ or closer to the sin. So if you are in church,
Wow.
like, you just have to choose Christ, not your sin, not homosexual behavior. And I said, yeah, that's fine. Like, choosing Christ over sin. Yeah, I can choose Christ over sin. Like, that's cool. But we're all in agreement that I'm still gay, right? Like, yes, Eugene, you are still gay. Like, I understand it. Like, I will not be straight. Like, yes, like, you will not be straight. It's understandable. But then I had another conversation. We had, like, this process of when we would do, like, my church went through a really difficult split up, and another group of pastors, they were doing kind of homecoming, or like of renewing of membership. And my one of the pastors asked me, like, okay, Eugene, what is your profession? So, like, I did not bring up that I was gay. And, like, okay, we talked about it. Like, everybody, like the senior leadership knows. So I don't need to repeat myself. And I said, like, well,
Right.
my profession is psychologist. I'm a psychologist. I work with children and adults with disabilities. And he said, like, this is not okay. Like, what do you mean this is not okay? No, you are stepping into pastoral care. So only pastor can listen and advise on people's problems. You're not pastor. You cannot do that. And it was my last year in college. He said, like, well, what you should do, you should drop out and you should choose a different career path. I'm like, no, this is not happening. This is what
Wow.
God told me, like, in my spirit, that this is the path. I'm sorry, like, what you're telling me, like, it doesn't translate what God is telling me. And a lot of pastors said, like, hey, like, if the spirit talks to all of us and we all in agreement, so clearly the Holy Spirit doesn't speak to you. I'm like, well,
Oh,
if it is the
wow.
case, like, I have to choose another church. I cannot be a member of your congregation. I went to another church, and I had another, like, my second spiritual awakening when God, like, a little bit earlier than that, actually, God told me, like, people make mistakes. You should respect my pastors. You should respect my leaders, but they can make mistakes. They may misinterpret me. So you should
Oh,
directly
wow.
experience me. So listen to them, respect them, be obedient to them, but also trust but verify. So trust but
Right.
verify. And that was I went to another church, like, right before I moved to the United States. And I think the most religious trauma I actually got when I moved to the United States, when I came out as gay. on social media, I get so many hate messages from my old
Mm,
church, like, "We don't wanna see you anymore. We will pray for you.
mm,
You're in the darkness," like, just, like, really, really nasty, alarming things, like, "If you ever back, don't bother coming back," and just a lot of hate, a lot of bigotry.
wow.
So
Yeah.
that's my experience, like, because my faith is very much experiential, right? It's like,
Yeah.
yes, I believe in God, but I had direct
And that's how it
spiritual
should
experience.
be, right? Our faith
Yes,
should be experiential, like things that we've experienced, not what people tell us to believe in, right?
yes.
Yeah. Super interesting that you experienced more religious trauma and backlash in America versus in Russia, right? Because it's like America's supposed to be more of an open minded country when it comes to homosexuality. Well,
I
not
was
so
in a
much anymore,
closet.
but it's very interesting. And how did you deal with all of these negative comments from people that you knew in church telling you that they were praying for you or that never bothering coming back again?
Yeah, so in the US, I found a really loving communities, multiple communities of open and affirming churches that helps definitely. And that was my journey here. Like, I was really studying the scriptures in
Mm,
original languages, like the interpretation, but also like interpretation from different church leaders, like, cuz everything at the end of the day is interpretation at some sort, because
100%.
I mean, 5,000 or whatever, like however how many years ago the Torah was written, right? Like, these are codes for us. This is not the instructional manual, and these are spiritual codes for us that we should interpret. And I was got
Yeah.
delving into like rabbinic interpretation, a Christian interpretation, and this is where, like, again, like, the spirit said, like, Eugene, you should stop. I love you as you are. You will, like, if you want to find the doctrine that like homosexuality is okay, you will find it. If you will seek the proof that it is wrong and it is sin and that you go into hell, you will find it as well. But I'm telling you, choose the faith family who accepts you, because I accept you, and like, stop. Like,
That's beautiful.
you're going in circles, and like, it was not a bad going in circles. It was like actually quite fun, like learning about
Yeah.
different denominations and how they see homosexuality. But God said, like, you know what, you have bigger purpose than just being stuck on homosexuality and the Bible. Come on, there's so many verses in the Bible. There's so many truths in the Bible, and you're just stuck on one little thing that has nothing to do
Mm.
with your destiny or with destiny of other people. Like, no, you should move on.
Wow. Yeah, I can relate so much to it because one of the reasons why, because I also got baptized as a Christian not too long ago, actually, and I really got sucked into the Christian world and I was all for it. But then, obviously, being gay, I started to feel like I didn't fit in, and there were some comments from people, and like just the energy. You can feel the energy when people knew that I was gay. And then, of course, on social media, I've gotten a lot of hate. So that led me to like studying scripture deeper. It started to prove to them that, like homosexuality is not a sin. The word wasn't added to the Bible until 1946. And in other passages, it doesn't even refer to homosexuality. But then I just started really enjoying learning this, like the hidden symbolism and codes in the Bible for other things, right? And I've been just studying the Bible from a metaphysical standpoint. I've also started studying Kabbalah and all of these different traditions that are just so fascinating. Which also you mentioned that since a little boy you were always into like magic, and I have started to having this since I was a little boy. I was always again as well into magic, like mysticism, esoteric stuff. Like anytime I would see an esoteric shop, I would just be drawn to it, and like it just really called me somehow. And lately, I've been having this remembering, which is very hard to explain because it's like I'm remembering something that I haven't necessarily lived in this life, but it's just a remembering of me being a mystic. And that's also kind of where I've been led to right now, which is Christian mysticism. I would love to know how you bring all this spiritual side of you into your business? And if you do it at all, like into the clients that you serve, the offers that you build, how do you connect spirituality to your current business?
This is such a good question, and I think this is my latest spiritual awakening too. So with my clients, I'm very analytical. So I don't know if you're into astrology at all, but I'm a Virgo, so I'm a Virgo sun. I'm very intellectual, and when I say astrology, astrology for me it is literally the GPS, the blueprint that God gives us,
Mm,
and it's literally, hey, like this, like the manual for your soul correction. This is how it looks like.
yeah.
Like, yeah, here. So, but I'm very analytical. I would always lead with strategy because, again,
Mm,
the way my brain works when somebody comes to me and says like, okay, I need to, like, for example, I need to make more sales. So like, okay, like what's wrong with your sales? And my mind immediately would see the patterns and would see the gaps. But when I would work with people, I would give them strategy first. And this is the
okay.
shift that I'm kind of making it like inside of my offer too. And then we would switch to what like Dr. Alyssa Miller, she's a clinical psychologist, and she's actually done research on spirituality and human psychology. Then I'm leaning into more awakened awareness, and we talk about manifestation, and we talk about the co-creating with the universe, co-creating with God. Because at some
Hmm.
point, when people get sales, because sales is not the problem for people, building a business is not the problem. Selling from stage is not the problem. The problem is their identity that they're holding on to and what they don't
Mm,
believe or what they believe about themselves. So when they got the
true.
results, I would receive messages like exciting messages. People would say, Eugene, you created a monster. I did not know that it was available to me. Right now, I'm invited to all different conferences. Like so many people buy from me. Like, I think I need to stop selling for a while and figure out what I do with my business. Like, hold on. Like, you just you're like, you can make it full time within a year and you want to don't stop the momentum. And then we dive into nervous system regulation because again, like not only your failure can dysregulate you, but also your success if you're not ready for it. We started
100%.
regulating
Which,
nervous system.
yeah.
Yeah, we started
And I've noticed with the people that I work with, and myself included, that it's actually the fear of success and not having the capacity to hold that success, visibility, wealth that keeps people stuck in like the same level more than the fear of failure.
100%. 100%. This is why when my clients would choose safer path, like, okay, is this path out of alignment or is this path is out of fear? And if it is
Yeah.
path out of fear, it will not succeed. I will challenge you
Mm,
to go after the path that out with alignment, even though you may not see like the whole path. So, and this is how I bring spiritual, like this is how I bring spiritual psychology, not just spiritual practices, although
yeah.
we like for everybody is a little different because again,
Yeah.
this is not so much so about particular religion or denomination, but bringing your spirituality with proving psychological methods that I know as a therapist
Love that.
with people to develop this awakened awareness to activate the awakened brain. So it's actually the term that Dr. Lisa Miller uses in her book, The Awakened Brain. So, and when that synchronicity happens, then people see a different path or people see a better path or people have this boldness and alignment in their business when they can finally build a business that feels in alignment. Not necessarily easy.
Mm,
Entrepreneurship is not easy. It's not walk in the park,
no,
but something that
I
like
wish.
the challenge that they will enjoy.
Yeah.
So
I love what you said, and I love that you're bringing up spiritual psychology. I've started studying a little bit more Carl Jung, and he talks a lot about this, and I think it's fascinating because it's blending like psychology, spirituality, science, and I feel like we're just at this threshold right now where everything is coming together and everything is making more sense, which, in my opinion, is what religion failed to do. I mean, I believe that religion has done more harm than good for humanity. But that, again, that's That's a topic for another time. I would love to know how you guide your clients who are still operating from trauma, control, or religious conditioning, if any of them come with these fears or traumas.
Yeah, well, I use certain techniques from acceptance and commitment therapy. Again, this is not therapy. I don't do therapy with my clients. Ask, like, first of all, grounding in the present moment, right here and right now. Because when we operating
Mm,
from trauma, either jump in the past, undesirable past, or we jump into undesirable future. And this is
right.
when, like, the business not aligned. So we're grounding in the present moment, and then we're looking for confirmation that it is quite available to you. For example, with one of my clients, when he said, like, I don't know, like, there are dry spells in business, because also, like, as we're working together, like, it's ebbs and flows in business, right? He
Uh,
sees my ebbs and flows, he experiencing ebbs and flows, and, like, but can I actually do it? Like, what if I don't have clients for like a year? Like, well, then you pivot and you build contingency plan, and it that may happen. So, and you figure it out, like, maybe you need to pick up a job, or like maybe you need to make a quick offers to do cash injections. But with you, what is available in the field for you right now? Like, how many invites did you get to conferences? Like, well, around like 4 or 5. How many clients did you get from those conferences? Like, almost every single one of them, either consulting client or coaching client. Yes. Okay. Do you keep getting invites for collaboration and conferences? And this is like very unique lead generation. By the way, he's not
mm,
big on social media. And, like, yeah. So based on the field and the data that you see right now, if you lose your job right now, what would happen? Like, well, I will probably succeed. The same thing with my other, with my other client. I'm like, okay, so now you made 25K in one single week. So how do you have the confirmation that you can make sustainable income with your business? Like, 100%. Now it's up to you. Do you want to give your power away and be under corporate, or operating independently?
mm,
And I
yeah,
would
yeah.
encourage you to operate independently, because this is something that you can do, but this is the choice that you must do. And
Mm,
sometimes my clients lean into one or another, or sometimes it is something in between. Sometimes my clients, like, cause it's not just coaches, with consultants specifically, they're like, okay, I keep my personal brand, my podcast, my marketing, but I'm operating under the bootstrap of a bigger organization, because I don't have to worry about clients. They pay me six
yeah.
figures and then some. And I can coach clients, and I can do my podcast, and I do sidekick money from my podcast. So, like, why don't I combine all of them? Because this is something is in alignment. Again, this is like really tuning into awaken awareness, what is in the field
Mm.
for you, and what life God and universe presents to you right here, right now.
So true. And something that you mentioned that I love is that we always have evidence of success, right? Like if we look at our lives, even if it's not necessarily in business, but we've had successes, whether that is in relationships or academic, or there's a lot of things that we can look at that proves to us that we are capable of doing whatever we want to do. So sometimes we just forget about that. And as you said, we're just too focused on the fear of the future, like all the failures that could come, or like the failures that we've had in the past, but we don't see that there's always evidence. And for the brain, finding that evidence is super important, because a brain is a machine. Like if we've done it once, we can repeat it and do it twice and 3 times and 4 times. And that there's always like, it's not A or B. It can be a mix of that, right? Like you can stay in your corporate job if you love it and still make a side income through your personal brand, and then maybe in a few years from now you want to switch that, and like there's no rules. And I feel that nowadays with social media, it's like we're kind of like put into specific boxes. It's like this is how it has to be. Like you have to launch your low ticket, then your mid ticket, then your high ticket, then your group pro. It's like there's no rules. It really depends on who you are, where you are in your life, and as you said, that you are in alignment with that. But I do want to ask you, because you mentioned like if it's if it makes you feel scared, if there's fear, it means it's not in alignment. But I also feel that when there's fear around something that excites you, but it makes you feel scared, that is a moment to lean into that. Because as I said before, I am going through maybe like the 10th pivot that I've been pivoting so much lately. But it's because I probably haven't really found alignment. And now I finally feel like I am. I hope I am. But it feels scary because it's a brand new place that I'm like heading into, like a new area or theme or space. And obviously, I am not so experienced in that field, but I'm scared of the backlash I can get because I'm getting into a place that is controversial. I'm getting to a place where I'm going to go against like traditional thoughts and beliefs, and it's scary. And this week actually, I was just thinking like, shit, what am I getting myself into? Like, do I really want to do this? Like, should I just keep playing it safe and go back to like safe content? And I felt anxiety, and I normally don't feel anxiety, but you know when you feel that sensation in your stomach of like fear, but then I was like, no, if there's fear here, it's because I have to keep going. I'm not going to stop. And I've been getting a lot of beautiful comments and support from people telling me that thanks for speaking up boldly, for your courage, for like being a truth teller. So that also motivates me. But what do you think about this? Like when there's fear in cases like this, is it a sign to lean in, or maybe that it's not in alignment, as you said before?
So, when we experience fear, so from a psychological standpoint, our brain will always look for safety. And it's
Mm-hmm.
simply like we do not have well documented experience where we can predict the future. If our
Yeah.
brain cannot predict the future, we will experience anxiety, we will experience fear. Now, from the spiritual standpoint, Kabbalah actually teaches us, like a lot of, like some of the sages mentioned, that when we experience discomfort, fear, anxiety, this is actually the external light from the creator pushing down on our vessel because
Wow.
it has more light for us. And the
Wow.
fear and anxiety we experience is because our vessel is about to expand and it's uncomfortable. So
Mhm.
whenever experience fear and anxiety, it's important to go through that pain safely. And of course, like, use your analytical mind, right? Like 100%. It's never just divine download. It is divine download and your analytical mind, divine download
Mm,
and evidence from your
always.
reality in one way or
Yeah.
another. It's like you
Yeah.
say yes, God, but you lean into the facts, right?
Of
So
course.
when you experience anxiety and fear, this is your vessel. This is the sign that your vessel is expanding. Sometimes,
Mm,
though, it might be a sign that you going outside of your alignment, but this is a different fear. This is a different
yeah.
fear. This is a
True.
fear when, like, it's like to your, like, it's almost bodily responses, like when you're about to,
Mm,
for sure, and I can't really explain it. It's like when you're trying to learn how to swim and it's scary to swim, even though you know the technique, you have the support, you have your coach, you have other people who can catch you if you drown, and versus, okay, I will jump off the cliff because I believe in myself and I will fly if I jump off the cliff. Those will be two
right.
different fears,
Of course. Of course.
very two distinct different fears, and it's really important
Yeah.
to use discernment.
Yeah. 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 Like the fear that I'm talking about, it it's like it's excitement, but fear at the same time. So it's like that's the difference. And what you mentioned about like your vessel being ready to expand really reminds me. I'm a quantum physics nerd, and I love everything about quantum mechanics and physics and energetics. And in quantum physics, when you're about to quantum leap, which is like a massive shift in identity and life and energetically, it's like going from 1 to 100, there is a contraction. That contraction, things slow down, you doubt, you fear. According to quantum physics, is literally like your field is being realigned in order for you to actually make that shift, make that jump. So it really reminds me of what you just said about the Kabbalah. Because at the end of the day, I was just thinking like, everything always leads into the same thing. And it's like different ways of explaining what's unexplainable, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
awesome. So I have a section in the podcast which is called the rapid fire round. So I'm going to ask you a few questions and you have to answer them as fast as possible. And then we will wrap up. Okay.
All right, sounds good.
So, what has been a book that changed your life?
The Bible.
What's one lie you believed about God that you no longer hold?
That God is this angry entity that is about to just like that God wants something evil from for us. That
Mm,
our desire, if we want something, it must be against God.
yeah, love that. What's one business rule you've broken that brought you more peace?
One business rule that I broken was that content strategy doesn't matter.
I love that too. I love that too. We'll have to talk about that later on. What's one meaningful ritual, prayer, or mantra right now that you swear by?
Okay, so I use breath work and prayer and meditation. So
Mm-hmm.
I normally scan my body. So like in Kabbalah, there are 10 sephirot, 10 different energies that
Mm-hmm.
correspond with our bodies. So I start with crown and I go from upper level sephirot to lower level. And the end of those sephirot is malhut, which is physical word and manifestation. And then I talk to God. So, and also like recently, actually, I was getting downloads to like tone it down, like my spiritual rituals in the morning and go with the flow. If I feel inspiration to work, don't interrupt that inspiration to work and jump into
Okay.
work and do spiritual practice later because like literally the download that I got, like, Eugene, you asking me about every single step, like you're like I'm giving you the flow and you interrupting my flow by praying me. You
Mm-hmm.
go with the flow and then you pray, or you pray and then as soon as you feel the flow, you go with the flow.
Love that. Love that. What's the most powerful decision you've made recently?
Recently, I think the most powerful decision that I made recently is really bringing to the front spiritual psychology in my brand because this is something that I'm passionate about, and
Mm,
this is something that my clients would tell me like when I would do like those sessions about spirituality and alignment. They say, like, Eugene, this is like K offer right there. Like you don't even have to do anything. You just show up and speak and inspire us, and we build businesses. Like, what are you doing?
that's amazing. A guru.
Right?
And what does success look like in this season?
So the success look like consistency no matter what. Certainty beyond the logical mind. Whether I
Mm,
see the success or not, like for example, with 90 days on Instagram, I landed this podcast. This is good enough. Like it's not
I'm
about
happy to
like
hear
getting
that.
6 figures within 90 days. It's about getting the signals from the field and see what is aligned.
Yeah.
So this is the success like looks like for me
Love
right
that.
now.
I'm getting goosebumps. And I'm sure this connection is going to go beyond just this podcast. So I'm excited to see what will unfold. Eugene,
Yes.
thank you so much for taking the time to be on this show today. Before we go, where can people find you and how can people work
Yes.
with you?
Of course. People can find me on LinkedIn, Eugene Berezin. People can find me on Instagram at Eugene.Berezin. And if you want to work with me, if you want to learn about my containers, I coach primarily one-on-one. I do have short-term coaching, really rapid fire, like emergency coaching or consults. I also have long-form coaching containers and LinkedIn implementation. If it is something that you want to look into for your business, send me a DM. Tell me what's up. Tell me what's going on, and we will go from there.
Awesome. I'll make sure to link all this in the show notes and on YouTube in the description of the video. And again, thank you so much. Thank you to all of you who stayed until the end. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to give it a 5 stars because I'm sure it deserves 5 stars. And it's going to help me push this podcast and share my mission with more people. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, tell us what you love the most about today's episode, and I'll see you next week for more. Bye.